Hey everyone, welcome back to the Big D Coins channel. In this video, we're going to talk about the coin in the very center right here. Let's check it out. We got a 1942, 1942, 1942, 1942, and this one is 1942. So you get the idea of today's video. We're going to talk about 1942 wheat pennies and some good news and some bad news about wheat pennies. The good news is that they are easy to come across if you search through enough coin rolls. That is because the mintages of them are pretty high. The 1942 no mint mark, indicating that it comes from the Philadelphia Mint. There are 657 million of those coins produced. In the video, we're going to talk about the value of that coin. It's also hard to talk about 1942 without getting into this one right here, 1943 steel penny, and this one right here, 1942 to 1945 wartime nickel, which has some silver in it. So let's talk about this first, and then we'll get into the surrounding coins a little bit later in the video. So 1942, the year before the steel cent came out, there are 657 million of them produced at the Philadelphia Mint, 206 million produced at the Denver, and just 85 million produced at the San Francisco Mint. Now, the mint mark on these coins is right where you kind of expect it to be. It hasn't really moved too much. So on the 1943, which I've got here as an example, it'll be located in that same exact spot. Now, all the ones that we looked at earlier are dated 1942 and do not have the mint mark on them, indicating that they are from the Philadelphia Mint. So I was trying to understand the value of this coin right here. So I hopped onto the PCGS price guide and I was looking at the 1942. The bad news is that if you've got one that's this colored, it's not going to be worth a significant amount of money unless it's an error coin, which we'll get into a little bit later. But the 1942 BN and RB coins, so the brown and the red brown coins, are not going to be worth significant amounts of money, not even really worth getting your coin graded. However, if you've got one that's in the RD designation, indicating that it's got at least 95% of its original kind of red coloring to it that you would expect to see from a copper coin, those ones are going to be worth more than face value if you can get it at a mint state 66 or higher. PCGS has graded over 2,000 of the mint state 66s with a red designation to them, and they have a price guide for those of $32. And as far as the mint state 67s, those have a price guide of $200, and some have recently sold. One recently sold in June 2018 at a DL auction for $185. So it seems like that price guide of $200 is a pretty good reference there. Now, when I give the auction prices on the PCGS website, these are all of the auction results for PCGS graded coins. There are less expensive ways that you can get your coin graded rather than submitting it to PCGS, but they are kind of the highest standard as far as grading goes. Now, PCGS also has a rarity and survival estimate. Now, the rarity and survival estimate for 60 mint state 65 or better is 6,000 coins. So these ones right here, rather common. We'll flip it over and you can take a look at the reverse right here. This is a pretty standard design. Mine happens to be in great shape, or at least I think it's in pretty good shape. Not worth grading, but still a good looking coin in my opinion. Now let's slide this over right here. So this one isn't going to be worth a significant amount of money. However, these two right here are. They aren't going to be worth thousands of dollars, but they'll be much more valuable than the 1942 wheat penny. So let's stick with pennies and talk about this one right here. This is a 1943 steel penny. So what happened in 1943, the United States needed its copper for the wartime effort, so they could make bullet casings or shields or whatever they use primarily for copper. So they decided to switch over and make the pennies out of steel. And what they did with the steel penny is they coated them in zinc. Now, whenever you hear coating relating to coin collecting, that just means it's a thin covering that goes kind of around the outside of the coin. Now, unfortunately, as you can see here, that coating can wear off. and that's what why we have some different colors between this corner right here, this corner right here, and the center. This penny will have a weight of 2.7 grams, the standard diameter and thickness of a regular United States wheat penny. Now the design hasn't changed at all, just a little bit of a different coloring to them. In 1943 at the Philadelphia Mint, there are 684 million of these made. At the Denver, there are 217, and at the San Francisco, 191 million of them were made. Now you can sell or buy these probably for around 20 to a dollar, depending really on the classification of the coin, as far as in raw condition, of course, not graded by PCGS. So 25 cents, maybe up to $1 is what you would expect to pay at a coin shop for a coin that looks similar to this. However, as I did mention, the mintages are in the hundreds of millions. For the Philadelphia specifically, 684 million. So just keep your heads up while you're coin roll hunting, and you can come across these without having to buy them from a coin shop or on eBay. Now let's slide in this one right here. This one comes to you from 1942 until 1945. It's known as the Wartime Nickel. Now what makes this coin a little bit different than the other coins we were looking at before is that this coin has some silver in it. In fact, it's a 5-gram coin that is 35% silver. So that gives it a melt value of about 91 cents. So this coin is going to be worth more than face value, even if it's completely worn out, scratched up. You can barely see the design, because people will hold on to these and collect these for junk silver. I mean, no silver is really junk in my mind, but what they mean by junk silver is, not a very nice coin, but if you were to melt it down, it would be worth a whatever the bullion value is for silver. Now we'll flip it over. This one happens to be dated 1943, but the same design was used from 42 until 45. These again are known as the Wartime Nickels. I go into both the Wartime Nickels and the steel pennies a little bit more in detail in some of my other videos, but just figured I'd make this one. I was going to talk about the 1942 wheat penny, and it's hard to talk about the 1942 without touching upon 1943 steel penny and the Wartime Nickel. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Sorry about the bad news about your 1942 not being worth a ton of money, but if you've got one that's a nice red coloring to it, it can be worth significantly more than face value if you get it graded. Thank you very much, everyone, and best of luck coin collecting out there. Take care.